All right, so bad news. Bad news. Reacher Season 2 actually kind of sucks. It's been getting worse each episode, sort of every single week. I feel a little bit less enthusiastic about where the season is headed. Before this most recent episode, I was starting to think, okay, well, the writing's gone downhill a little bit. I don't like the setting or the characters as much. You know, in the first season, he was basically a big fish in a small pond. The town of Margrave, Georgia, was its own sort of character in a way. The contrast of this very large, very smart, very dangerous man who comes to this town and becomes this wild card, that was a great contrast because everywhere he went, people would look. He stood out like a sore thumb. Whereas in season 2, episode 6, season 2, Reacher he's just another guy in a big city. And not even like an interesting neighborhood of the big city, but just like the big city. The city itself feels inert and uninteresting. You know, there's a car chase scene in this most recent episode through what's supposed to be New York City, and there's effectively no traffic. Nobody calls the cops despite guns being shot. It feels very lifeless and empty, and that's strange. If you want to have a Reacher show in New York City, you've got to create an interesting location within the city for this to take place, because in pretty much every Reacher book I've read, anyways, Reacher is always in a place that has its own character, right? Like he's on a ranch house in Texas, or he's in a compound in Montana, a militia compound, or he's, it's not always, but there's often this sense that this location that he's at is fundamentally part of the story in a meaningful way, and that Reacher comes into this scenario and shakes things up, right? But in this story, in this season, that doesn't really exist. But I was thinking these things and trying to articulate sort of all the different ways that I didn't like the season as much as last season. But then episode 6 happened, and it just jumped the shark completely. A lot of the things that are supposed to be sort of like Reacher's kind of a quirky character. He's got weird quirks, like he doesn't own anything. He'll buy new clothes and throw his old clothes away. He only has a toothbrush. That's fine. It's silly, but it's fine. It's charming in its own way. But when you bash that over our heads all season long, it stops being kind of charming and it starts getting overplayed. So I'm sorry, but when you're in a small convenience store, first of all, your likelihood of finding anything outside of like tourist shirts, like I Love New York t-shirts, which would make sense in a little convenience store, your likelihood of finding an outfit, a full outfit, is low. Your likelihood of finding an outfit for someone Reacher's size, or even Alan Richton's size. I mean, me and Alan are the same height. I don't have as jacked, roided out of a body, but we're the same height, and it's not super easy to find clothes that fit great just stopping by any old store, let alone a fucking convenience store. But Reacher, he's just able to grab stuff off the one rack in the store. And boom, he's got it. Other things like the statements that they're always saying, like details matter. Yeah, well, details matter. Clearly, they matter, but they don't matter to whoever's writing this season. Did I ever tell you you're smart, Neely? Yeah, you've said that like 4 times this season. Actually, you don't mess with the Special Investigations Unit. Okay. And finally, the C is always right. Lots of little things like that, but then there's it's not just the writing, it's not just this hammy, corny shit that they're doing. The fight choreography is terrible this season. I think it's partly because they have so many different characters fighting, but also it's just like everybody's got so much plot armor that the good guys can just stand there without any cover, firing away as like helicopters with machine guns fly in, and they don't get a scratch. No one's even shot. No one's even wounded. Okay, Russo dies, this spoiler, but we're talking about this episode, so whatever. Russo, the cop, one of the best characters in the season, really my favorite character in the season, dies in the worst possible way. He's got this girl. I don't know why they brought the girl to him. They could have just left the girl where she was, but they bring the girl to Russo for some reason. Instead of having him do cop stuff, they're getting him to hide the girl, and when he reveals that he's on the run because his life's in danger, they don't think, oh, well, maybe this is not the best place to leave the girl. They do it anyways, and of course he's chased, and they have a big car chase, and I mentioned this earlier, no one calls the cops, there's no traffic. He eventually, they get out of the car, and he tells the girl to run, and then he sacrifices himself to save her. This character we met 4 minutes ago, and we don't care about at all, other than that she's a kid, so But instead of staying behind the car and shooting and let it while she runs away, he gets up and walks towards them and like a badass idiot and dies. So that's ridiculous. The worst scene in the episode, though, well, there's a couple. They track down this woman who works at New Age, where the bad guys work, and they interrogate her, basically. She reveals that Swan is not a bad guy. Shocker. But then she's like talking about Langston, the New Age security chief, who is one of the bad guys, and she's like, "You don't even know he's got such bad people in his pockets, like a biker gang." And they're like, "Check, we got them." And she's all, "And some hitmen," and they're like, "Yep, we got them too." It is the worst written exchange in a TV show that I've seen since Fear the Walking Dead season 8. I mean, it's genuinely, I laughed out loud watching it. Not only was the acting really shitty, but just this idea that you're going to just list off all the bad guys that came after Reacher and his friends. Like, she knows, Langston told me he gave me a list of all the bad guys he has at his disposal to send after me. He could send the biker gang. It's really bad writing. It's genuinely bad. Then they devised this scheme to use her as bait to get to Langston. And he actually goes. Him and his men go to get this one woman. Apparently you need a full car of dudes, including the boss, to get this one woman, which is ludicrous. He wouldn't go. Why wouldn't he just send a couple guys to get her? It makes no sense. There's a big, really, really terribly choreographed shootout there. Another funny scene, they ask her if it would be easy to have the missiles and the chips put together by AM. And she's like, "If you had an engineer." And then it cuts to like the engineer. They're like, I wish we knew who his engineer was. Then it cuts to the scene with the engineer. Big sign says engineering. And the guy walks out, and Langston and this guy have like the exact same conversation. Like, apparently they've never discussed this before in this whole plan. Again, just such bad writing. It's like the writing hasn't been great all season, but it got significantly worse this episode. The big villain, AM, the mysterious assassin guy, the terrorist, once again kills somebody using a knife about this long. One stab to the stomach. It must be one of those knives that the Mandalorian has, the vibrating knives that he killed that big mud creature with. But he kills a cop who, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night, is citing him for having something hanging from his mirror. It makes no sense. Why even include this scene? Like, you've established that this is a bad guy. He's killed a lot of people already. Do we really need to have this scene? It's just total filler. If you've already established that he's a bad guy and that he has a super powered tiny knife. Anyways, okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't want to run on and on and on, but the fact of the matter is that this show has officially jumped the shark. I'm not sure if they put Ian Goldberg and Andrew Chambliss, the showrunners of Fear the Walking Dead, in charge secretly, because the writing level, the production values, all of it has just tanked so horrendously. My last video was about Fargo Season 5, which I have a lot of complaints about, but I still feel like it's a quality production. Like, they're putting effort into the costumes, they're putting effort into the dialogue, they're putting effort into, I don't like where the story's going, I don't like how underdeveloped a lot of the characters are, but it's still a watchable show. Whereas Reacher it is in every way, cinematography, choreography, it just feels like a cheap network show that's not, if this was the first season, I don't think it would have been renewed. And I don't know, it's just a real shame. So anyways, let me know what you thought, or what you thought so far of this season, compared to first season, compared to the book, whatever. Down in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, as I ask every time, and I do appreciate it. Peace.